everyone. I hope you had a great weekend. Sorry I had to cut it a little short on Friday. So let's pick up where we left off. So y'all can see that. Alrighty. As Dorothy bade the good-natured guardian farewell, she said, "I have been very kindly treated in your lovely city. I cannot tell you how grateful I am." "Don't try, my dear," he answered. "We should like to keep you with us, but if it's your wish to return to Kansas, I hope you will find a way." He then opened the gate and they started upon their journey. The sun shone brightly as our friends turned their faces toward the land of the South. Dorothy was once more filled with the hope of getting home, and the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman were glad to be of use to her. As for the Lion, he sniffed the fresh air with delight and pure joy at being in the country again, while Toto ran around them barking merrily all the time. "City life does not agree with me at all," remarked the Lion, as they walked along at a brisk pace. "Now I am anxious for a chance to show the other beasts how courageous I have grown." They turned and took a last look at the Emerald City. All they could see was a mass of towers and steeples behind the green walls, and above everything the spires and dome of the Palace of Oz. "Oz was not such a bad wizard after all," said the Tin Woodman, his heart rattling around in his breast. "He knew how to give me very good brains," said the Scarecrow. "If Oz had taken a dose of the same courage he gave me," added the Lion, "he would have been a brave man." Dorothy said nothing. Oz had not kept his promise to her, but she forgave him. He was a good man, even if he was a bad wizard. The first day's journey was through the green fields and bright flowers. They slept that night on the grass with nothing but the stars over them. In the morning they traveled on until they came to a thick wood. There was no way of going around it, for it seemed to extend to the right and left as far as they could see. So they looked for a place where it would be easiest to get into the forest. The Scarecrow, who was in the lead, finally discovered a big tree with such wide spreading branches that there was room for the party to pass beneath. Just as he came to under the first branches, they bent down and twined around him, and the next minute he was raised from the ground and flung headlong among his fellow travelers. This did not harm the Scarecrow, but he looked rather dizzy when Dorothy picked him up. "Here is another space between the trees," called the Lion. "Let me try it first," said the Scarecrow, "for it doesn't hurt me to be thrown about." He walked up to another tree, but its branches immediately seized him and tossed him back again. "This is strange," exclaimed Dorothy. "The trees seem to have made up their minds to stop our journey," remarked the Lion. "I believe I will try it myself," said the Woodman, and shouldering his axe, he marched up to the first tree that had handled the Scarecrow so roughly. When a big branch bent down to seize him, the Woodman chopped at it so fiercely that he cut it in two. At once the tree began shaking all its branches as if in pain, and the Tin Woodman passed safely underneath it. "Come on," he shouted to the others. "Be quick." They all ran forward and passed under the tree without injury. The other trees of the forest did nothing to keep them back, so they decided that probably the first row of trees were the policemen of the forest, and were given this wonderful power in order to keep strangers out of it. Later, in the forest, they came upon a gathering of animals, who appeared fierce, but were so impressed by the Lion's courage that they begged him to be their king. He promised to return once he saw Dorothy safely home. The four travelers passed through the rest of the forest in safety. When they came out of its gloom, before them was a steep hill, covered with rocks. The Scarecrow led the way up the hill. "Keep back!" A head showed itself over the rock and said, "This hill is ours. You may not cross it." From behind the rock stepped a short, stout man with a big head, flat at the top and supported by a thick, wrinkled neck. But he had no arms at all. "I'm sorry not to do as you wish, but we must pass over the hill," said the Scarecrow as he walked boldly forward. As quick as lightning, the man's head struck the Scarecrow in the middle. He went tumbling down the hill. Then the head snapped back to the body. I think someone's awake. There was a chorus of boisterous laughter, and Dorothy saw hundreds of armless hammerheads upon the hillside. "Look at those strange people." Alrighty, so I think the crying is my cue to stop here, and we will read some more tomorrow.